Hello folks, Chris here. Just to give you a few notes about this episode before it starts. First up, there's a slight drop in quality in this episode, and that's because we had a guest on from across the pond, and we had to record using Skype. There were also a couple of technical difficulties, so our guest drops out for a couple of seconds, just a couple of times during the episode, so it's not bad. And probably the most important point of all is that this is a board game only episode, really. We talk about all sorts of things, we go off on really strange tangents, but what we're planning on doing is next week, if we can get together again, we'll do a video games only episode. So you'll get 2 episodes in 2 weeks, which is more than you usually get from us. Anyway, enjoy this episode, it's pretty good. Hello, this is the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token podcast, and this is episode 23.
Wow.
My name is Chris.
I'm Euan.
And I'm neither of those.
You're Pawel.
Oh yes, that's what I
your
am.
name.
We'll
And
continue to address you as neither of those.
for the first time in this podcast history, we have a fourth person.
Yep. We've got a special guest.
So we have Lance Mikester on the show with us today. Okay, Lance, we're going to turn it over to you a bit. You want to introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
Yeah, that is who I am. Most people most likely know me more for my video reviews than anything else. I'm the Undead Viking on the YouTube channels and what have you. I've been doing I did written reviews first, but I've been doing video reviews for about 8-9 years now. You can check me out on my YouTube channel if you so care. The really early stuff was on Vimeo, but who cares about that? That's like a dead platform by now, right?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, is Vimeo still around? I haven't gone to that
I think
website.
it is. I think it still exists in some form.
Yeah.
Really? YouTube
Yeah.
didn't like swallow it up and eat it or something, but I don't know.
I'm sure it's
But-
bound to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, bound to. If it hasn't, well, who knows? But and then most recently, however, the exciting thing about me is that I left. Well, I shouldn't say I left the review world because I still do independent reviews. But I actually was recently hired by a game company, Tasty Minstrel Games, and I am I'm now part of the problem instead of just being somebody on the periphery. I'm in the thick of it, and I work with them in all manner of media and game development and what have you.
So you were doing so much damage that they actually bought you over.
There you go. They conscripted me. They made me an offer you can't refuse. And no. Truth be told, I was really good friends with pretty much everybody everybody that I met that worked for TMG. I was very good friends with, including the founder, Michael Mendez. And it was one of those things where, it was something that like we both kind of wanted. I wanted to kind of work for him, and he wanted me to work for him, and then so it was just one of those things where timing eventually it came together. And
That's not how my job interviews go, really. It's mostly me just forcing myself onto people until they can't refuse.
Is that how you got on this podcast?
It is actually. Yeah.
The podcast was. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I was
He turned up one day and then just sat there.
He refuses to learn the concept of just amicable relations with people. It's more just.
I think there's been
forcing
plenty
it.
of hints thrown around that I shouldn't be here, but I just ignore them.
It's so crazy. So how do you get the link to get in? And do the recording, or do you just break in the house? And
It's a very small town. I found where they live, and I just pretty much don't let them. This door is very easy to open.
Yeah. Most people in Scotland is a very small place. Most people are easily found under a log,
We all know
or
each
just
other.
like any kind of shelter from midges and rain.
I've always wanted to go to Scotland. It's one of the few places in the world that I just wanted to check out for a lot of reasons,
Yeah.
But I always thought it'd be just cool to go there because it's such a. Everything I've heard is it's a very very different different from any other place you'll ever travel, kind of thing. And such a small, like you say, closed area. So, and one of my like weirdest, dearest friends that I ever met like playing an online game was a young lady from Scotland, and we've maintained like actually a friendship afterwards, and like just she shows me pictures of her kids. I've never met her in person. It's one of those things where I'd love to travel there with my wife and go visit her and meet her giant family. She's got like 18 kids or something like that. and a very tired husband.
Sounds it. Okay, so Lance, are you still doing video reviews? Because I remember when I first got into board games that your name was one of the ones that came up when I was looking at, which ones to buy and that kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure I have watched some of your reviews or read some of your reviews a long time ago. So
yeah,
you still doing that?
I still do them. I try to get at least one done a week. I mostly I'm part of like the crowdfunding reviewer group now.
Okay.
Like we do reviews for Kickstarter games. I still do some published games, that like I have the time for, but I'm contracted now with a lot of the crowdfunding groups that ask me to produce a video for them, which I do, to help them get their game out in the map and broadcast that to my subscribers. I have a weekly show that for heaven knows what reason people tune in and watch every Wednesday night at 9:00 my time, of course, which would be way early for you.
Yeah.
But and then we're on there for like 3+ hours just talking about nothing. That is three of my really, really good friends in the board game media world. A guy named Keith, a guy named Anthony, and a guy named Barry. That we've just become very, very good friends over the years, and just like commiseration about complaints and talking about games and whatever. And so that's like something I look forward to every week. And like we've been doing that for over a year now, which is kind of neat. But for mostly as far as the media goes, that's my thing. I get a game, usually a prototype. I play it. If I like it, I agree to do a review for them. If I don't like it, I say I'm not going to do a review for this because I'm not going to sink your game. I'm not going to make the video for it. So don't back this horrible piece of crud. So but I mean, because that's the whole thing with reviews, right? It's like there are games out there that people loved that I would just like, how this game is horrible. I mean, like the Pathfinder card game that came out 2 or 3 years ago comes to mind. I thought that was just the biggest pile of crap that ever got.
That's really weird because I just showed that to Pawel.
Actually,
yeah, I just showed that to Pawel. He'd never seen it before.
Yeah, well, no, my problem with it was it was so boring. It was just like, and plus, like they marketed it as like, oh, now you'll be able to play Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, without a DM, and like I was like, okay, I'll sign up for that. Because I'm a big role playing gamer, and like anything that if you can port that feeling of the role playing game over, then I was all for it. And then I got it, and I was just like, there's a lot of things that you can say about games like Arkham Horror or a lot of the co-op games where it's like you go to a spot, you turn a card over, and you do what it tells you. But there's a way you can do that to actually make it interesting and actually make it immersive for it. And that's what Pathfinder was. It was like a game of whack-a-mole, as you're just basically trying to find the bad guy at all these different locations. And it just, I don't know. It just fell completely flat for me. And I did a video of it saying, I think the title of the video was, "Am I really the only person that hates this game?" And of course,
well, I totally understand what you mean about the whack-a-mole thing, because that is true with that game.
Well, it's not. I mean, I've only played it the once with you, and it doesn't really feel RPG. It feels more like something like Mage Knight, where you're just grinding away or something.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing about I don't know if you guys ever played Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that, but the whole the basic tenet of playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons is you go into that dungeon, you find the ogre, you kill him, and then you get his treasure, and then you carry that treasure out and you go spend it on stuff. That's the core thing about D&D. So in this game, it was like you turn over a card, it's an ogre, you roll your dice or whatever, and then if you succeed, you kill it, and you just remove the card. There's no reward for it, and it's just like it didn't. And then if you lose, this is the thing, and I don't want to go off in a rabbit hole here. The thing about that game here, I'm going to complain about a 3-year-old game. This is why I can't get it anymore.
Well, be honest, Lance. This is how our podcast works.
Yeah, there's a lot of us moaning about like utterly irrelevant things.
Well, the thing about that game was like to enhance your ability to succeed, you would discard cards from your hand, because that was the whole thing. It was like you had a deck and then you didn't want to run out of cards. But if you took damage from the thing, it made you discard cards.
Yeah.
So it was just like, it was like there wasn't really any feeling of anxiety there, because it was just like, well, what's the choice? Either I get beat up and I discard cards, or I discard cards to win. It was just, I don't know. There was
Card
just,
fatigue.
Well,
yeah, it was just this total disconnect, and I was just, no, I was not a fan, but
right.
but a lot of people absolutely loved it, and that's fine,
Well, yeah, I mean, I played through the whole thing. I got all the expansion things for it.
I'm
Played
sorry.
through the whole thing. Okay, but you've now convinced me that I hate that game.
You've explained it eloquently why it's rubbish.
I must say, I'm surprised to hear a
Pavel, take that home.
review made from the point of view of an RPG gamer, because I've not seen many actual board games or card games that would even attempt to mimic an RPG game.
Well, it really can't be done, I think, in a weird way.
I mean, I'm going to say that if I play Arkham Horror or Eldritch, whatever it was,
Horror, yeah.
Eldritch Horror, there's going to be enough fluff, enough text, enough narration in it for me to get immersed enough to enjoy it partially from an RPG perspective. Or if I play Time Stories, again, there is plenty of... You feel that there is at least some sort of story, potentially even characters, plots. And I need that in RPG.
Yeah, well, Time Stories, though, I mean, now if we're going to go down that rabbit hole, Time Stories isn't even a game. I mean, it is a wonderfully created board game that's a choose your own adventure book. I mean, because that's basically what it is. And I don't want to go through any spoilers, because my wife and I are still going through them, because it's one of those games that my wife really enjoys, and so I have no problem with the game whatsoever because of that purpose. Because they have great mysteries in them, and discovering it is cool. But I mean, I don't know if you guys know what the Choose Your Own Adventure book is. I mean, you remember the ones it'd say, do you follow the knight into the cave, or do you travel down the trail? Turn to page 73. Well, everybody I know played those games by putting bookmarks. So you basically could go back and you could read the entire book, and you could read every possible iteration of how the story would end. So you just kind of, well, that's kind of what that game is. And like, if you're after the first time you play like a couple of rounds where you're like, okay, well, we used up all our time, we reset, and let's try it again. And then reset and try it again. And about the third time you reset, everybody at the table says, why are we bothering with resetting? This is ridiculous. Let's just find out what the mystery is and find out what the answer is. And I like it. I really enjoy the mystery. I love the way it comes out. I love how the cards work. I love all that part of the game. But it's like an activity. It's like a joint like telling of a story, or like a joint experience, rather than it's like a game, so to speak. It's a good, but for what it is, it's amazing. I'll say that.
You might, I mean, maybe you're having an easier time with some of the puzzles and things that we are, because I definitely, when we've played it as a group, we've found it quite tense right up to the actual final moments, like solving it or whatever. We've had, we've really kind of struggled on through it.
But here's the deal. It's like, but the whole thing is that since it's the main thing that's going against you is you're running out of time. It's like you have to kind of plot everything that you're going to do, and then you have to figure out that path, that you have to take, to get to that point. But so it's kind of relying on the people playing it to have that contract with the mechanism to agree that, okay, we ran out of time, now let's go back and do it.
I think
and that kind of breaks it up just a little bit, and I mean, I guess technically that would be, quote unquote cheating if you didn't like do the time part of it, which I agree is but I mean, I don't know, people experience the games how they want to. I mean, I know people that like when they'll play like a solo game, they'll cheat, just because they don't want to lose. Well, fine. I mean, and people will say, "Oh, that's stupid. Why do they do that?" Well, because that particular person doesn't want to lose, and they have fun not losing. I mean, it's like it's like playing a video game on easy mode. It's like I'm tired of being beat by the video game over and over again. I'm gonna crush it for an hour, and so I can feel good about myself. But that's what kind of like, if we want to dovetail back, the whole point of reviews is like when I gave that negative review, it's like that's just my opinion. And I've always said, everybody out there, whenever they play a game, you're going to have an opinion about a game, whether or not you like it or not, or the things you like it about. And your opinion, anybody's opinion, is just as valid as mine. The only difference with me is that over the last almost decade, I've taken the time to actually put it on YouTube. And that's the only difference. I mean, everybody else's opinion is just as valid. And,
of course, yeah.
And so, and people forget that. I don't know. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, a reviewer said it was amazing. It's like, oh, well, that doesn't necessarily, it's going to be amazing for you. You got to have some sort of an idea of whether or not the game's going to be good. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that was now broken the record for longest introduction to this show.
I thought that was just a new segment that we were doing.
No, I've totally enjoyed it.
That's got quality. I think just finally, just to turn things around a bit, is there any game at the moment, lads, that you, or just overall, that you would say like an absolute favourite, or anything that you really want to highlight that maybe has come up in your videos or anything like that?
Okay, well, I mean, if we let's I'm going to say this right now because I work for the company that's got a game in Kickstarter right now called Yokohama, which I don't know if you looked that up, but that is an amazing Euro, and I've played it a dozen times. I was sad that I had to actually send my copy down to Florida on Friday because they needed a copy there for the Dice Tower Con, which starts tomorrow. And so I had to send that down there, and so my boss could have a copy down there that he could demo and show to people so they could learn how to play the game and decide whether or not they wanted to back it. Yokohama is just it's an amazing game from Hisashi Hayashi, the gentleman who did Trains and String Railways and Sail to India. He's got a lot of excellent, amazing games out there. Okay. And we're very excited. We're doing really well with that. So I could talk about that for a half hour if you wanted me to.
We could do it. We could because we're going to talk about some board games ourselves.
Yeah.
So Lance, if you want to keep that one, we can come back to it. You can tell us how it works and everything like that.
That certainly sounded the idea of
I'll say this. I got an excellent. I got my Kickstarter copy of Defenders of the Last Stand from 8th Summit Games, which is think Defenders of the Realm, if you've played that, kind of weirdly pandemic, but with
yes, I've got it up there.
Fantasy. Okay, Defender of the Last Stand is made by Richard Lanius as well, which is one of my favorite designers.
Yeah.
And it is Mad Max world, but and you have the Last Stand is the last city that actually has any semblance of civility to it, and they're being attacked by all these different mutants and biker gangs and eco-terrorists and things like that are trying to destroy the Last Stand. And you're
crazy.
I've never figured it out. I actually thought, looking at the title at the box that Chris has got here, I thought this was some sort of high fantasy heroic thing. And
Defenders of the Realm is.
Okay.
Defenders of the Realm is, but Defenders of the Last Stand is just in the process of being released. And I got my copy a week ago, and I finally was able to get it to the table. And it's amazing. It's got great story elements and little adventures your people can go on, but it's one of those great co-op games where you never feel like you have a chance, and you're just basically scraping by to the very end, trying to survive. And
those are the best co-op games.
Oh no, I mean, you never want to play a co-op game where you are, you never want to play one where it's easy, right? Yeah. Nothing upsets me more than when I'll get a co-op game, and I'll set it up and we'll play it the first time and you win. Yeah. It's what? I shouldn't have won. You should. It definitely was one of those things where it should have destroyed me, right? Because you don't know the game. It should just bend you over and break it off. I mean, it's just and if you win the first time, you're just kind of oh well.
Shadowrun Crossfire. I've not won even a single time yet. I've actually stopped trying. I mean, it's just getting so frustrating. Not a single time.
I played that a couple of times, and it just, I maybe because once again it was like the RPG world of Shadowrun was something I always really liked, and I played a lot of those campaigns.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, then it made me angry because I was just like, "Ah, this is Shadowrun."
You're playing role playing. You're actually able to do stuff. You feel like you're doing it well. You start playing a board game. You get killed. My God.
You can't. The whole problem is that you'll never have the open sandbox world that a RPG gives you in a board game. Which it's fine. Yeah. As my friend Kevin knows, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Just like whenever he takes a turn. And then he realizes he screwed it up, and we say, you can take your turn back. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It just means that he'll complain later and say, well, I would have won if it wasn't for that.
You've got to save those ones up.
I think we've all got a friend like that.
Well,
a few points have brought to mind a particular individual, but I'm not going to bring that up
Let's
again.
not go into that again.
when we play D&D, if there's ever a situation when we're playing Dragons, if there's ever a situation where we realize, wait a minute, weren't you poisoned in like round 3? And like it's like round 7 of the combat, we're just like, hey, we're always like, always moving forward, always moving forward. We can't go back. So
this is when we're playing Pathfinder, the RPG at the moment with a group of folk, and some people have a real disconnect between the sort of playing of games and the playing of RPGs, where you have to kind of commit to the RPG to some extent and actually build that world yourself a little bit.
Well, if you play Pathfinder,
yes.
Okay, so here I'm gonna see. This is, and I've said this before, and I'm gonna bore you probably here, but how you've been playing? How many people do you have in your Pathfinder group? If I may ask?
There's 4 players, and I'm running it.
Okay, so is it 5 and 4?
5, yeah.
Okay, so you have 5 with the GM. 5 with the GM.
Aye, yeah.
Right, so what level are they, if I may ask?
Level 4.
Yeah.
All right, so you're at that perfect level. Level 4, level level 3. No, level 3 through 7 is like the perfect levels. It's just like you're tough enough that you can't just be killed by an orc with a lucky roll, and you are, but you're also you have a very good respect for the things that can smash you as well.
Yeah.
Pathfinder tends to break right around 11th or 12th level, in my opinion. Like everybody's stats kind of get a little out of whack. Like thieves have plus 35 to stealth or something. So apparently, like, they just snap their fingers and they fold into a 2-dimensional shadow and vanish.
Yeah.
So there's all these kind of weird things, but the beautiful thing about RPGs that I've always said is that, okay, so you have your game master. Your game master has this idea, this plan in his head, or her head, of the political intrigue or the big evil guy behind everything, and they have this story, right? And so like I have a D&D campaign that we've been going. It's been running for almost 3 years. And we play old school D&D, so we've been playing for nearly 3 years, and they just got to level 10. I mean, it takes forever. In old school D&D, it takes forever. And so there's this huge plot that's been going on behind the scenes that they've got whiffs of. Like just now they're lords. They have their own castle. They've been given land, and they're just starting to get into like, oh, well, maybe these people that have been like our buddies the entire time, they're actually the evil ones, and they're getting all these hints. And it's this plan that I've had in my head for like a long time. It's like a slow burn, big payoff at the end. And the whole thing is that in my head, they were always going to figure it out. They were always going to discover the truth behind the power behind the throne or whatever.
Yeah.
And they knew that eventually they would be successful and they would get to that point as well. They're going to win eventually. It's like a movie that you go to, the heroes are going to win, but you have that suspension of disbelief. You buy into the idea that, oh my gosh, we might fail. We might not save the kingdom. And that's an amazing thing that if you get people at the table and they buy into that when they and even on a lower level too, where it's like, oh, okay, well, you've heard of hobgoblin brigands in the hills, and then you go and you find their dungeon. It's like, okay, we're gonna go in here and we're gonna clean this place out, and then we're gonna get some loot and we're gonna leave. It's like nobody has the mentality of like, oh, we might die in there. You have this like, we're gonna go in there, we're gonna kill everything that moves, we're gonna collect everything they have, and then we're gonna go buy magic items with it. I mean, but you buy. But if you said that before you went into the cave, you'd be like, well, that's boring. But if you have so you buy in, you forget about that. You pretend that you might fail. Which I think is the beautiful thing about RPGs. Is like you pretend that you're not going to succeed.
That's right.
And everybody buys into it.
I mean, well, the thing is, if these guys in our campaign, if their behaviour doesn't improve, they will fail this campaign. I will make sure of it.
I wanted to interject here and just say, Lance, well done. I mean, this is the 23rd episode, yes?
23rd episode.
I've been trying to make these guys talk about RPGs for nearly 23 episodes. So, well done. Well done. You succeeded where I have failed.
This is a master at work, Pavel.
No, I got introduced to Dungeons and Dragons by my older brother when I was in first or second grade. I remember I was playing my Atari 2600. Classic. I was one of the few kids on the block that had one. But I was sitting there, I was playing, and my older brother came home, and God, I must have been 8. And my older brother came home, and he started talking to me about this game that he played. My brother is 5 years older than me, and he was playing about these. I like I said, like him. Oh yeah, your older brother. I know him. He's 5.
I'm just making sure you know that I'm still listening because Pavel's face is glazed over.
I've been counting years how long I've been playing RPGs, and mathematics fail me.
So I remember, and he came home and he was telling me about this game, and he was like, oh yeah, we went into this cave and we found these trolls there, and we beat them up and we took their treasure, and I found this magic sword, and that worked really well, and it glowed and it would talk to me, and then we found this dragon, but we couldn't hurt it, so we ran away, and in my mind I thought he was talking about a video game, like an Atari game.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what? I was like, that sounds way too complex for an Atari game. Was that in television? Was that ColecoVision? What was it? And he's like, no, dummy. It's called Dungeons and Dragons. You play it on a table. And then I was immediately hooked by my brother just telling me this story that he had played. And I was just like, I have got to play this. I don't know how. I don't know where this is. I don't know what this is. I've got to play it. And so I told my mother, God bless her, this is back when you couldn't go on the internet and find anything, right? And so it was like I think it was like in spring or something like that, and this would be 1977 or 78, and she started calling around to see if anybody knew about this, and like all I knew was called Dungeons and Dragons. That's all I knew. And so my mother was calling around all these places. Of all places in the world, they got a department store called J.C. Penney's. I don't know if you know what that is or not. They aren't really even a thing much anymore, but they could order the books.
Cool.
And she ordered me a copy of the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Player's Handbook, and the Monster Manual. All advanced Dungeons and Dragons, right? And like those archaic like trigonometry rules that basically are in there. And I remember wait 4 to 6 weeks for delivery, and I remember I was just like bouncing off the walls. I wanted those books so bad, and then I got them, and I remember spending weeks just reading through them and just thinking this was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen in my life. And then that was it. I was done. I became a hardcore RPG player at that point.
Excellent.
I started mine 25 years ago, and the only reason that I speak English decently nowadays is because the books weren't even available in my mother tongue, so I had to actually learn English in order to do it.
That's dedication.
That is dedication. That's amazing. That's way better than my story. That's awesome.
It's a lot shorter as well.
Oh, burn!
Score 1.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah. So and the only reason, like, and everybody always asks, well, why did you start playing board games? Well, we always kind of played a few board games, like, Risk, or later on, like in high school, we found a copy of Talisman, like at our local game store. We played that.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, classic stuff like that. And then the big thing was, it was like we all got old and we all got kids and wives and things like that. And so I still wanted a game with my friends. And so that was on a lark. I bought a copy of Arkham Horror because I thought the idea of playing against the game was amazing. Mm-hmm. And so then I got my friends over and we tried to understand those rules because they were nearly incomprehensible to us at the time. And we played it and had a blast. And then that was me going down the rabbit hole as far as board games go. Because, like, the cool thing when you get into board games, like the very first time you actually get into designer board games, it's like, oh my gosh, look at all the 8 billion games that I have available to me right now. It's just like, and you tend to, at like that first year, it's like you just consume them like they're going out of style because you have so many options available. And then after that first year, when you have all of a sudden you have 150 or 200 games, and you kind of figure out which of the ones you like, and then you start slowing down, you start being a little more choosy. But yeah, so, I can't even imagine.
Here is a question for you. Sorry to break in. So you started from a game that's really quite thematically advanced, yes? Arkham Horror. That's a complex game, that's a hard game, lots of rules, but also a lot of flavor, I would say. Which is what I personally very much like in board games. If I come down to these guys here in Portobello, I come here to play something that's thematically invested in some sort of world, whether it's going to be some sort of Battlestar Galactica or Cthulhu mythology or something like this, some sort of science fiction stuff. And these guys end up playing board games about preparing Chinese meals and things like this. So I imagine that people would probably pick up a fairly basic board game, which is some sort of Risk or something, something that exists purely for the fun of rules. And then they go up from there into the more advanced games, and Arkham Horror would be somewhere at the end of this evolution, whether you started from the top. Have you ever managed to find the fun in playing board games that are devoid of themes as such, that are only there for the actual fun of rolling dice and pushing tokens around?
Rolling dice and pushing tokens. No. See, the thing is, I think I was helped out a little bit with like the massive rule set. Obviously, I believe I was helped out quite a bit where I had the RPG background, because RPGs have very complex rule systems usually.
What you're saying is that RPGs are superior to board games.
Well, if I had to choose, and like time was no constraint, I'd play an RPG over a board game any day. I'll fully and freely admit that to anyone. But board games are still like they're just a slight notch below. So my opinion about that is that I can enjoy games that have a simpler rule set or like more of the straightforward Euro. I do tend to enjoy heavier Euros. I mean, a game like Madeira comes to mind. A game like Dominant Species comes to mind. I tend to enjoy Euros or strategy. I hate that Ameritrash Euro thing.
Yeah, I dislike it as well.
What's that?
I prefer thematic games. I prefer strategy games if you're going to use that techno. But the thing about it is I enjoy games where I can interact with the other players.
Yeah.
I really dislike me having to sit back and watch somebody create their victory point engine and I can't do anything to throw a wrench into it. I want to be able to mess with somebody just a little bit. So I kind of gravitate a little bit towards the conflict games, the games that have area majority, stuff like that, where you're in direct contention with other players. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't play a game like Le Havre or Agricola or or even like Pillars of the Earth for like a lighter, very light worker placement type game. I can play those and enjoy them, but my bread and butter is definitely give me some miniatures, give me some dice, and nuclear explosions. I'm probably
Gotcha.
Right, excellent. Okay, so shall we move this on a bit then?
We'll get into some board games then. We've actually finally gotten around to playing a few. Because I think the last time we had an episode, we really scraped the barrel, I think.
Oh no, I'd been playing
Oh,
stuff.
you've played
I think
something, I had played
you'd been
it.
on holiday or something.
There,
right.
there's a real thing. The toughest thing about being a board game hobbyist is finding the time to play them.
Oh yeah, totally.
It is really easy to research them. It's really easy to buy them. You can read the rules, but getting 3 people over to your house for 3 hours is
difficult. Yeah.
As a game master / RPG gamer who has other duties, I only come for board games when I don't have anything better to do.
That's true. That's true.
Very nice.
So let's talk about something that we've played, Euan.
Yes.
You and I played this with some chums just last week. We played Keyflower.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like Keyflower.
You like Keyflower? I thought you might after your explanation there that you like games where you can basically stick a wrench in somebody's plans.
Well, this is the perfect kind of.
And this game is good for this
combination of that and Euro game style mechanics.
So this is pretty much a Euro game, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, I liked it, so it must be.
Yeah, it must be. Euan likes what we call wood chopping simulators.
See, I take a slightly opposite view to you, Lance, on the board games. Like when it comes to board games, I really like the kind of I like seeing the beauty of the mechanics. Like the first game that I was ever sort of sat down and forced to play by Chris here was Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, yeah.
And it grabbed me straight away, just like how well designed these games were, and I've sort of kept on enjoying them. So I really like those games. Whereas I don't quite like I'm not too into the more thematic ones, but I do like the Pathfinder RPG. Like I'm really enjoying that. Yeah. So I think I like that freedom, but without the constraints of a board game thing. I don't know.
Okay.
So anyway. What you're saying is you like them both?
Yes.
For the rules and for the themes.
But I like them separate.
Keyflower is good because it can be very cutthroat if you want to play it that way, and you can be and plus they've produced like 8,000 expansions for it or whatever. Like there's the farmers, and then there's the merchants.
Oh really?
And yeah. So like, and you can actually expand it out pretty well. There's even a small little ghost ship tile called Key Celeste that actually it's a ship that like after the Mary Celeste or whatever, the complete and total fraud that not really actually a ghost ship, but whatever. Yeah. So I mean, so you can definitely expand it out, and you can the whole outbidding people and blocking them. That's a really, really, really fun game, and it has a little bit of a steep learning curve, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it does a bit. I mean, it took us. I mean, we've only played it once, and it took us until I think because you play 4 seasons in it, and I think it wasn't until really sort of summer, autumn that we kind of realised that okay, so this is what this game is.
Yeah. I missed a lot of opportunities in the earlier rounds because I didn't really think, how I hadn't quite gotten to grips with how the game, and it's like, and the duration of the game as well, like how the rounds work.
So we'll give a sort of quick overview of how the game works then. So you've basically got like a bunch of tiles basically. Now the Keyflower is based on the Mayflower, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So you're really just settling a new land. And you get a bunch of hexagonal tiles. You've got a home tile. Everybody starts with that. You have a bunch of different coloured meeples. Okay, so you've got basic ones are blue, red, and yellow. There are also green ones as well, but those are special. Mm-hmm. Now, basically, all you're doing with these, you get some random coloured meeples, and you can bid on the tiles that are on the table in front of you. So you put some random tiles out depending on the season. They change from season to season. And if you bid with blue workers, somebody that wants to outbid you on that tile has to bid with blue workers as well. So it's the same with red and yellow. That can change because you, as Euan got in the game that we played, you got something that let you bid with any colour, was it?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that stuff came from the boats.
Yes, that's right.
But yeah, I could, if you'd already selected a colour, I could bid with another.
That's right, yeah. So these little village tiles, if you win the bid on those at the end of the round, you can put those into your village, and they give you certain benefits if you use them. So you can use your little meeples to use those tiles as well. And you can use the ones that are in the centre of the board that are being bid on.
Yeah.
Again, you have to follow the rules of if somebody has already bid with a certain colour of meeple, if you want to use that tile, you have to use that colour as well. So it gets a bit, you are, like Lance said, it can get a bit cutthroat because sometimes you will just go in with a high bid with a certain colour.
Yeah.
Just to try and completely block people out and stuff like that. But you can use other people's tiles, you can put workers on them to block them out from using that. They have to then put extra workers on to use that tile. And blah blah blah.
Well, even with the way that the bidding system works, it's got you can sort of draw it out and be really kind of because I was going around just sort of goading people, putting one meeple on each thing, kind of thing. It's like, right, are you going to bid on this then?
It's true, you did.
I lost out on pretty much every one of them.
Sorry, Lance, go ahead.
No. I mean, I don't want to interrupt you guys because you're kind of in the zone here, but yeah, it's definitely a game where like we try to play that one towards the end, just because it can be a longer game, but also, bad blood will carry over to the next game we play. It's just
and
like,
it did.
Oh, really? Well, you wanted that spot? Well, I'm going to take it. It doesn't even help you. Yeah, well, it didn't help you to put 2 green ones down, did it? But you had no problem doing that the last game we played. Stuff like that.
I like this sound of that.
It's almost like you were watching the game we played.
I think you had a similar experience to us.
I've gamed with the same people for dang near about 3 decades, really. I mean, and so there's still comments from like games of Talisman we played when we were in high school that like are that still bad blood about votes that didn't go your way and things like that. So yes, good stuff.
It's just certain transgressions have to be punished in the next life. If you do something in a board game that really stabs someone in the back, just expect to hear about it for the next couple of years. That's just the way it works. That's what board games are for.
Karma extends to all things.
We were playing this game called Archmage, and it was years ago. I mean, I was in college, and my friend Craig convinced me that like the only way that we could knock down my other friend Jason was that he and I had an alliance. He convinced me the only way we can beat him is you got to take him down. You got to attack these 3 sites, and then if we take those away from him, then we can bring him down. And so then I did it. I turned my back on my, and then of course the first thing Craig did is moved and took over my castle and like destroyed on the exact same turn. And to this day, I still say, remember Archmage, 1994? I do.
Never forget.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to it in 10 years' time.
I think marriage works the same way.
Are you married?
Yes. So basically, you're supposed to just remember everything, and every time you need to, fight for a certain advantage in a relationship, you just take your little notebook or your little diary, and you pretty much show to your spouse that 7 years ago they've done something.
It probably doesn't help, Pavel, that should explain. Pavel is married to his GM.
Yes, but it works both ways because we both game masters, so...
Oh, right, so you take it turnabout, so it's not...
Nah, the way we do RPG isn't very competitive. You're supposed to... There's different styles of playing RPGs, and ours is very narrative.
I don't want to know
We
about
won't
the
get
kind
into
of
your
role-playing
eldritch
you do.
sexual proclivities right now.
Yes, let's take it... Yeah, maybe later. We'll have another episode for that.
Nah, we're not.
No!
Back to Keyflower.
Let's get back to Keyflower.
Probably a safe choice.
I've completely
Chris
lost track
had
of
somewhere
where
he
we
was
were.
trying to get to with that.
Yeah. I mean, I was just going to talk about the tiles and stuff, because the tiles, like these tiles give you different things, obviously. So you get things like forges and sawmills, which give you certain resources, like stone and wood, which you can then use to upgrade those different tiles. And there's a way that you do that. I'm not going to go into the details about it, but you have to move them around, basically.
Yeah.
You've also got things like Apprentice Hall, gives you skill tiles. Again, these are little tiles that you need to upgrade certain your hexagonal village tiles. And you've got other things like the fair and the peddler in the store, which turns your red or yellow or blue men into green men. Now, it's the only ways that you can get green men is through using these tiles. And green men work like any other colour, but you have to... if you bid with green men, the chances of anybody else having green men are pretty low.
I think you were the only person that had them.
And I think that's how, I ended up winning the game pretty much by doing that, which is why I mentioned it.
Yes, you did enjoy that.
But I mean, the game that is essentially the game. At the end of every round, you get more workers, you get more meeples, and you can bid on the start player, and you can bid on who gets the first choice of what meeples you get and stuff like that at the end of every round. But that's essentially the game. You play through 4 seasons. In each season, the tiles are slightly different. They give different things. I think in the autumn season, you tend to get more sort of point scoring buildings rather than things that let you produce stuff or that. The
differences in the seasons was the biggest thing for me, in how sort of learning how the game works, really, because you start off in summer and you get or spring and you get your sort of things. I had barely built up any kind of infrastructure, any kind of like resources or anything like that, and suddenly it was the last round and it was all like there wasn't any production building came out. Everything was things that would get you victory points, or that would get you victory points based on having certain things.
Yeah.
At which I was basically screwed for all of it. Yet somehow came within a hair's breadth of actually winning the game.
That's true.
Apart from a dastardly move of yours.
Yeah, so like Lad said, this game can be quite mean. Because one of the things that I did to you was to use your gold mine, I think it was, right in the last round of the game, which gave me the gold that you needed to win, basically.
I think so, yeah.
Because I think there was only 1 point in it at the end of the game. And it was kind of strange because we played, it was a 3-player game, and Dave, the other guy that was playing with us, we thought after the first round that he was miles ahead of us, that he was going to win, because he bid on and won so many tiles in that first round, and we had hardly anything.
I think I had 1 tile for,
and Dave just like
first 2 rounds or something.
I thought that he was that was it basically after the first round, and I was kind of shocked when I realised that me and you were neck and neck at the end of it.
The thing is, do you know what it was? And I don't know if this is maybe an imbalance in the game or something. It's just because I'd built up the wee the profession tiles, so you get the anvil, the
skill tiles,
skill tile, ironmonger, wood chopper, stone cutter,
something like that.
Yeah. With and I could have scored a load of points off of those because of what came out in the last round.
Yeah.
They were all based on getting a lot of points for sets of those. I had tons of them, and I kind of went on a very sneaky bid, sort of trumped the pair of you. But then you kind of went into the last minute. It's like, no, I'm having that. And if I'd won it, I think I would have won the game by about something like 30 points.
Yeah.
But because you got that, you won the game by 1. It was insane.
Yeah, it was. And I realised that if you got that tile, if you managed to combo all those tiles together, that you were going to score a hell of a lot of points.
It was ridiculous like that.
And I waited until you had passed before I outbid you on it, which was just... Yeah. I don't think you knew that I had those like 4 or 5 blue men sitting behind my...
I had to assume that somebody was going to try something like that, but I held out as long as I possibly could.
Yeah, you did.
I'm just going to say there's some emotions forming up here. I can clearly see. I can. I mean, these guys normally get to complain about unlucky dice rolls, but when the game doesn't actually have dice in it, and they realize that it's not the dice that's the enemy, but rather each other.
Yeah.
Oh, there's like proper emotions here. I'm enjoying it. You go ahead, guys. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, those emotions carried over into the next game we played.
Well, I
and you were determined to beat me.
Truly ruthless, and we played viticulture.
That's right.
A game of winemaking in
Italy, I think.
Italy, a sort of indeterminate period in Italy. Not now, but some time ago. It's probably explained somewhere, but I haven't got that to hand. That's a game by... Now, I'm just going to read these off the box here because it's in a very nice cursive script.
I know, I can tell you.
Go for it, lads.
Well, it's from Jamie Stegmaier. It's the game that it's the game that put Stegmaier on the map. He's got Scythe coming out here in just a little bit. The game that everybody's super excited to play and try out. So, it's Viticulture is a great game, and he's expanded upon it a great deal. Like added little nuances and what have you. There's a lot of what's what I'm looking for here. like little modules that you can add.
Yeah.
And
we played the
We've got the essential edition.
Sorry,
there
I
you go.
was looking at the actual box. Is that a game about making booze?
it's making
Yes.
wine.
Making wine, yeah.
Fantastic.
You plant your vines. It's a worker placement game, which I'm always happy with.
You must be doubly happy because it's worker place and making alcohol.
wine. And you go through all the steps, and it's actually like it's one of those worker placement games that I like because it is also thematically strong.
Yeah.
The way everything sort of comes together. So you get hold of seeds for vines. So you've got all the different sort of grape varieties. You sort of draw them, and then there's actions to plant them in your fields. You've got 3 fields at the start of the game, which you can actually sell. I ended up not even needing one of my fields. I just sold it. It's like, well, just take money for this.
Yeah.
Should I be imagining something similar to the rice paddy thing we played some other day?
Oh, Spirits of the Rice Paddy.
That was all about irrigation, though, wasn't it?
That was a bit stranger than viticulture.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
It was a bit more spiritual.
but there was some other elements
there,
to
yes.
it. Yeah.
Well, there's spirits here as well, or is it
No,
wine,
no, it's all
Different
wine.
kind of spirit, but
Okay.
English is.
I
kind of
really
weird
actually be
about
interesting if they did like a grappa add-on or something like that. Like send off your stuff to make Greek brandy, something like that. I would obviously play that.
it. Yeah, I know you would.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the worker, the various actions you can take are fairly straightforward. You've got your planting vines, and then that, and sort of touring the vineyard as well. You can make money for that. You can purchase upgrades. This is all stuff in the first half. You basically play over a year. So you start off in the summer, and these are all your sort of actions for the summer. So it's all like planting and generally nice stuff.
Yeah.
And then you move over into the winter,
The winter is coming.
and it's time to harvest your grapes. Get them on the mash pads for you.
I think you're trying to fit a Game of Thrones reference in there.
Everybody's at it.
Making wine in the winter.
I don't fully understand how you can even have games with seasons in them and not mention this. It's wrong. It's unnatural.
Well, it's like when every time. It's only been a couple of times they've said the phrase Game of Thrones in the TV show Game of Thrones, and I get to let out a big cheer.
What is this time to complain about Game of Thrones? Is that what we're...
No. Let's not do that.
I think I'm bringing back a bit of chat from last week.
Because we can. I mean, I'm more than willing to complain about Game of Thrones if you so desire.
I'm not sure if I'm qualified.
Okay.
I've stopped watching before the Red Wedding.
Spin-off podcast.
Although I just say that because every Wednesday night on the weekly show, eventually about 2-3 hours in, somebody says, "Is it time to complain about Game of Thrones yet?" okay, it's time to complain. Let's do this. And
Nice.
so then, we begin to complain about things that we don't like about Game of Thrones.
What are your main gripes?
About Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Well, but we were talking about grapes.
Well, you're not grapes.
Right.
Gripes.
Well, we'll move from grapes to...
Let's table that. Finish about viticulture, because viticulture is an excellent worker placement game.
Yeah,
It really...
okay.
As I said, we moved on to the winter, and it came.
It came.
You harvest your fields. So you'll have picked up your grape cards. Will have different sort of numbers on them depending on the quality of the wine.
Yes.
Sorry, ignorant question. You're actually supposed to harvest stuff in winter.
Planting, it's autumn, winter. They've split it into 2 seasons.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
It's not a 4-season deal.
All right.
So yeah, the winter autumn actions, we'll call them.
Don't get pedantic about wine, Pavel.
Demon.
You use the word pedantic. That's awesome.
You don't strike me as somebody that would be pedantic about wine in the first place.
No.
Why start now in the middle of a podcast?
I need my booze-related games to be realistic.
Well, I would say this one is quite realistic.
So does it teach players how destructive alcohol is
disagree
to player health?
Champagne is not made out of one.
Right, okay, but
2 red
that
wines.
is one element that's a little bit suspect.
Right.
Well, yeah, we're getting on to that. Obviously, once you get your grapes, they go into... You've got sort of... Is it crush pads? That's it. Where traditionally you would stamp on the grapes to get them all juiced up and mixed up with the yeast.
Yes, I've seen it in a movie once.
Yes. What's basically they go on there, and there's different value positions on the crush pads. So it's 1 to 9. So you'll have a marker, and these are quite cool.
Yes,
I like to enjoy these little see-through markers that actually magnify the number underneath, so it fills up the marker.
That's smart.
So the marker you take off, you'll place it on the crush pad depending on the value of the wines you've taken from your field. So you can have white and red wines in the same field, but you have to mark them separately.
All right.
So, like for example, at the start of the game, I was very lucky in that game actually to start off, where I basically got a 2-value red and a 2-value white grape to plant it, and I got them planted straight away.
Yeah.
Harvested them straight away. And I had sort of a couple of wines, and you then have an action to take your grapes from the crush pad and make them into wine, and they would go on to the same value number in your wine cellar. Now, there's lots of different little upgrades you can buy as you go as well, which determine whether you can plant certain grapes, and you have to upgrade your wine cellar. It's pretty much essential if you're going to get anywhere in the game. Because at the start you can only store up to value 3 wines. Now, if you make higher value than that, it'll just go to a 3. You won't lose it or anything like that. But it seems a bit of a waste.
So how many rounds do you go through in this game? My understanding, and I have very limited understanding of alcohol, is that wine has to actually wait a little bit before it's ready.
Well, this is built into the game as well.
All right.
You play as many rounds as it takes to win. It's a first past the post system.
Okay.
25 points, I think. I don't know whether there's variance on that,
20,
it's on the. It's 20. Pretty sure it's 20. No, it's 20.
But the thing goes up to 25.
Goes up to 25. Yeah. I tried to break that meter.
You did.
I find this particular thing to actually add to the competitiveness, because every time we play a game where nobody actually understands how to win stuff, we sort of just get to the last round and then start counting points, and it turns out that somebody won. Whereas in the system you've just described, we can at least see that somebody's getting ahead of everybody else, and we can start chasing them fairly early. I prefer that.
Well, that can be a problem with, like, as someone who absolutely loves wood chopping simulators, as we've come to call them, that can be a problem with those types of games where you're just sitting there and everybody's totting up their wee. But I still love them.
No, that's fine, yeah.
Where were we? Oh yeah, right. Well, the one thing to bring up is as well, once you've made your wines, you can sell them, and that's kind of the object of the game, because you get a lot of victory points for selling your high quality wines, and you also get an income. So you get a sort of income track, so you'll get money every year. There's also like upgrades that you can get that just sort of give you bonuses. Like I got one that gave me victory points for doing wine tours, so not only was I getting money for my tours, I was moving up the victory point track.
Yeah.
And there's also sort of seasonal workers you can put in for the summer and the winter that will give you bonuses for that round.
Yeah.
If you play them, that is.
Yeah.
That's basically all the actions, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's I found the game to be pretty chilled out. But one thing I will say is, do not buy my wine. I'm a terrible winemaker.
Your wine was poor.
I was at least like 12 points behind everybody else when we played this game.
So you were making cheap wine then?
Oh yeah. Euan got his revenge. He completely crushed me in this game.
I destroyed everything. Yeah. Euan was like really trying to catch me in that game as well, and I was having none of it. I kind of like, I was doing things in that last round just out of pure, like, I know I'm going to win this, but I'm going to get myself a few extra victories.
Yeah, you were doing it out of spite. That's the thing. I could see it in your face.
I'd become ruthless. I basically, we started the game and I set out that I was going to adopt the mindset of Sting, the singer. I sat and listened to I got out your cassette tape of Bring On the Night,
yes,
and I listened to him sing the Flintstones theme tune in a jazz style. What many would describe as probably one of the greatest moments in jazz rock history.
For anybody that's confused about this, all right, Sting,
no, not at all. I'm following along.
Sting owns a vineyard in France. Now, Sting charges people for the pleasure of picking his grapes for him.
Oh my god!
I wonder
so
if
he doesn't
shakes
pay
them
people
down
to
on the
do
way
it.
out, see if
He
they've
charges them.
pocketed some
Well
grapes.
done, Sting.
And then he gets to make the wine out of those grapes.
That's a beautiful business model.
As if he needs more money.
He earns not only money, but victory
he is
points.
a horrible man. Anyway, back to viticulture and...
Well, I mean, we've basically given you the game there. It's really... Now, obviously, the Essential Edition... This is with various expansions. I don't know how that much it differs from the original game.
There was a load of expansions released for the original game, and the Essential Edition has some of those expansions.
Selected by Uwe Rosenberg.
Is that... Yes? Is that true?
It's on the...
It's on...
Oh, they had the Farmers on the Moor or something like that. What was it called? I forget what it's called.
That's right.
So it sounds much more straightforward than the previous one. The key flower was...
Yes, but I think you'd like Keyflower more, Pavel.
Yeah,
because it's a bit more cutthroat.
The interaction.
You're saying this because you want to kick my butt in it ever since
I do,
a couple of years ago I've utterly destroyed you and humiliated you in that science fiction thing we played.
No. It was Civilization.
It was, yes.
I was the most bitter about
Prussians,
that.
Yes.
Going back to what Lance was saying about people remembering things from years ago.
That will be one that forever. Yeah. I mean, even I'm
not even sorry. I still remember the feeling. I knew I won, and I knew I could have humiliated you, and I've done it. I could feel I'm putting a leash on you, and I'm making you bark, and you did. You know what? Honestly,
it was horrible.
It was one of the most...
I'll go to my grave with a smile on my face.
Basically, we played Sid Meier's Civilization, and we should never have let Pavel go the Germans.
War! Let's go to war!
It wasn't even war. It was you managed to get yourself
Actually,
in a position
it wasn't even
where...
war. It was mostly like, let's prepare for war so that everybody pretty much shits themselves.
Yeah, you were somehow essentially able to extort a victory.
Steal.
I've never seen that in a game
You
before.
extorted me.
It was pure extortion. I've never seen it. It was the most harrowing thing I've ever seen in a board game.
This is so beautiful. I love it.
By the way, you didn't just ruin the game for me. You ruined it for everybody. There was a very bitter taste in everybody's mouths that day.
We were all looked on in just sheer horror.
I was a defeated man.
So every time now we play a game which is supposedly to be maybe competitive, I'm pretty much looking at Chris's whatever forces, and I know that 2 turns from the end of the game he will stab me in the back, and he always does, quite often successfully. Good times.
Good times. Very good times.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
Viticulture. Lance, is there anything you want to say about viticulture?
It's like I said, it's the game that kind of put Jamie on the map, and thankfully it did. And because he's cranked out quite a few games that are excellent afterwards. Like, he's got like Euphoria's out there, which I enjoy a great deal. He Between Two Cities, which kind of destroys Seven Wonders, for me, and I'll play that over that. And of course, Scythe is coming out really soon, which was obviously a big draw for him.
Yeah, cool.
I'll definitely check out more of this game based on this one. I mean, what I was going to say as well about the this edition is just like how complete it feels as one game. Yeah. It doesn't really feel like it's a game with
added on
that.
Things,
it feels like a whole game. It's obviously selected that very well.
Essential Edition, it says on the box.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it is.
Lovely. So
it is.
Two different games, and both are mostly about producing foodstuffs and then merchandising.
No.
Oh man!
But good try.
Thank you.
Thanks for playing.
It's nice to know you've been trying to listen.
Okay, let's move on. So
now we're complaining about Game of Thrones.
Yes, let's complain about Game of Thrones.
I was half joking, but did anybody? Pablo, you said you stopped watching, right?
Well, it was mostly torture and rapes, so I figured I'd watch something else.
That's fair.
Don't get me wrong. I've always needed and wanted and was looking forward to, I suppose, the big business to take fantasy seriously. As much as I enjoy the Lord of the Rings and stuff like this, I do like my science fiction and fantasy grounded. And Game of Thrones is the first TV franchise to actually show a fantasy setting that I can take seriously. But once I like to like characters, I like to commit myself to certain stories. If I get disconnected from characters, if I'm forced by the filmmakers to watch some poor dude get castrated over 3 episodes, it's just I'll go elsewhere to watch something that's maybe a little bit more fun.
No, I fully understand that, but if it does it help at all that the guy the castrator got his just desserts?
Yeah.
You know,
There's been a lot of retribution.
Spoiler alert, he's dead.
This last season had there was a lot of revenge,
A lot of revenge.
a much needed culmination of just desserts served out this season.
I'm fully familiar with all the spoilers because my missus is pretty much sitting on YouTube all the time, and every time there's one of the dragons showing up, I can pretty much hear her screaming from the other room. She's a big fan of dragons, and there is a whole lot of different comparisons between various dragons and whether they are as cool as the one from the Dragon Heart or not as cool. There's a whole system of judging them, and apparently the ones in Game of Thrones are fairly close to ideal.
Well, they made them like wyverns. They didn't give them
exactly.
4 legs.
I mean, yeah,
they gave them the claws and the end of the
more
wings.
into 4 legs and wings, but those are neat, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with the one in the Hobbit, but
yeah, I felt that this season was a little bit of a letdown. It was still great. It was still really, really good. There was a lot of things that I enjoyed about it. There was some incongruities, that were going on. I mean, I used to grouse a lot that they weren't, following the books and they were doing silly things, but I've come to grips with that, because I've read all the books and so I've come to grips with the fact that they just had to like alter it slightly just for whatever reason. I guess in a way that means that I'm lucky because I get to experience it, in both ways. I get to read the books and have that narrative and also watch the show. I felt this last season, especially that last episode, was just a giant salary dump where they could just like, what are all the characters that we just don't want to have to pay the actors any more money? Okay, let's put them all in a room and blow it up. Okay, good. Now we're done. We can move forward.
I got quite excited when that was sort of building up to that about to happen, and I was like, are they seriously going to do what they do in like American like soap operas? When we sent off half the cast on a cruise. I wonder what's going to happen to them.
Yes. So it was good. I mean, it was and the thing is, like, to Pawel's point, there aren't any like truly good people. I mean, the closest you get to a truly good person is Jon Snow.
I would rather look for relatable characters than good. I quite enjoy settings that aren't morally, black and white. So grey characters are okay, but let's want to watch them, if you know what I mean.
No, I understand. I mean, there's no point in. Look, we got it. Ramsay Bolton was evil. I mean, we don't need to have an extended moments of just another scene of him being despicable and horrible and evil. We got it. I understand that. He almost went into some weird sort of cartoonish supervillainy at some points. Like
this is pretty much my point, and that's what I found myself feeling about the show and some other shows nowadays. If I find myself waiting for a scene with a character I care for too long, I stop watching a show. If I enjoy shows more and more where, regardless of which scene it is, characters in it are enjoyable. I don't have to actually wait for something. I just watch it as it goes. And Game of Thrones has got so many characters.
Not anymore.
I suppose there was a
True story.
big explosion, and you don't really care for most of them, so you just keep waiting for somebody that might or might not show in a given episode. So, yeah.
No, I think one of the things about there were more. Okay, this is one of my takeaways. Like before this season, like I really felt that like the Game of Thrones TV show was just it was just better than anything else that was being made. It was just But this season, they kind of like went back to being boring TV, if that makes any sense. It's like
I totally get that.
Yeah, it's like a lot of Deus Ex Machina, like people just showing up at exactly the right moment, which with no explanation really for why they're there. People like so my friend Andy, he DMs and he says he always makes the comment of the adventuring party will arrive at the castle at exactly when the plot needs them to be there.
Yeah.
He said people move at the speed of plot. It's like so you had a situation where it was like Daenerys returned to Meereen exactly when she needed to be there for like the perfect story. Varys apparently can teleport.
I noticed that. Yeah, I noticed.
Plenty of teleportation in this film. Yeah, I've been told that there's the Ironborn fleet, who are supposed to be based in the northwest, and they somehow got to southeast within one episode or something like this.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they had to navigate a whole continent to do that. It's
apparently somehow, like Varys can teleport because he can go from Meereen to Dorne, and then back to Meereen. So then he can leave to go to Dorne again, which is just like fine, whatever. It's gotten sloppy and lazy in a lot of ways. But that being said, there were a lot of like fist bump moments, during this season, which are just like I mean, definitely when they dropped the flayed man banner and then dropped the Stark banner on Winterfell. That was like you could just feel everybody who's watching that at the exact same time are high-fiving each other, because the Starks just get screwed over, like, and they're the good people, right? They're like, Ned Stark was honorable and he lost his head. Robb Stark did the honorable thing and was killed for it. Jon Snow has always been honorable, got killed for it, was brought back, and is still doing the honorable thing. So it's just like, they're the good people, but they just constantly are just, somebody's got their boot on their face the entire time. So when they finally are able to, win.
My understanding is that this new season is going where the books haven't managed to get yet. So does it mean that it's the only reason why the characters are actually starting to win now is only because Martin isn't involved?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up as well.
I think the thing, and like a lot of those moments you're talking about, I guess a lot of that stuff needed to happen now, because it's like I felt a wee bit, and I've read the books as well, and I know a lot of the same criticism gets chucked at George R. R. Martin about the reading and everything like that, but those last two books, you just feel like he doesn't know where he's going. And he's quite happy to write these little character pieces, and that's kind of what he's doing. And it doesn't adapt very well for TV because it doesn't fulfill all the sort of the storylines that people want to see. But presumably a lot of the stuff that's happened in this season, they've taken from him.
That's true. And the thing is that, like, supposedly he sat down with them and told them exactly how it ends, who lives, who dies, how they die, if they're alive, how they end up. And so he has given them like the plot, and now it's their job to interpret it and then make
they've got to fill in the blanks basically.
Yeah, I suppose their mistake is not to making that journey from what they were sort of doing before, because I just felt like previously a lot of characters were kind of treading water. Like what Brienne does in the books is...
Brienne just is aimless for a while. It's just like you don't even know what she's doing.
She just goes on a walkabout, doing nothing, achieving nothing. The whole thing is pointless from what I could tell, her arc in the fourth book.
Well, and then, she like... Yeah, just exactly. Go find my daughters. Okay, well, what? And just and then there's the whole Lady Stoneheart, which they never brought over and are never going to do. They've kind of like replaced Lady Stoneheart. I think they've kind of split the character a bit, for both Arya and Sansa in a way. And because like in the book, Sansa is nothing. She's just doing nothing in the book. She's just talk about somebody. But then in the show, she actually has something to her. Obviously, I mean, she
Yeah.
feeds a guy to some dogs, so but just, but I mean, so I mean, and like somehow Arya manages to get all the way up into the to the twins, in the last episode. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just so that last episode, yes, there were a ton of moments that were just like, all right, cool. You were happy that they happened, but then if you actually actually used your brain and thought about, wait a minute, how can you even be here? Just like you have to actually, it's that removal of okay, I have to pretend that this isn't like real or whatever, or I have to just remove like the logical part of my brain and just enjoy the images they're giving me, and before they never did that. And so I just, it's kind of one of those things where it just feels, it's still very, very enjoyable. It's still probably better than 99% of anything else that y'all watch on TV. But it's just like it was so perfect for so long. Just to feel any degradation just kind of makes you a little bit sad, But no, I mean it was good. I mean, just it was I mean the Battle of the Bastards was an excellent episode. I mean it did and you got, you finally had one really big a-hole, get exactly what he deserved. And you were just like, and in a weird way, it still didn't feel like enough, for everything that Ramsay Bolton did. It still felt like maybe he got off a little bit too easy, at the end. It was one of those things where, but then again, then we're getting into even more gruesome and horrible things.
Yeah.
So you probably don't need to do that for TV. So,
well,
okay,
but
right.
yeah, there you go. I mean,
this was some quality complaining.
Yeah.
The
That
longest
was good,
digression
yeah.
that this podcast has ever taken. I really hope we don't get the commissioner
no.
coming down hard on us.
So
for
that was episode 23 of the Game of Thrones podcast.
Well, no, I mean it's just like, yeah, like I said, I have a. Are you guys familiar with Richard Hamm? Like Rado runs through his review.
I'm familiar with him. Yeah.
Okay,
Chris
so
is familiar with him.
okay, so Richard Hamm was in. I mean, he and I exchange emails and talk on Skype every once in a while, and he was at Gen Con like 2 years ago, maybe 3, I can't remember. But he and I ended up just kind of running into each other, and we ended up just standing in the middle of Gen Con, just kind of talking, and like come up and talk to us. They were very gracious, but just kind of exchanging life stories, and talking about whatever. And then he actually said, you're quite the raconteur. And I was just like, kind of looked at him. I was just like, gave him a sideways glance. I was like, wait a minute, look it up on my phone. Oh,
yeah, you're right.
A massive spinner of tails. Okay, you were complimenting me. All right, thank you, sir.
Awesome.
it's a quality compliment to receive from anyone, but that's certainly.
Yes.
Shall we get back to board gaming now?
Oh, I suppose.
We've come the long way round.
Right,
Might as
okay,
well.
lads, we're going to let you speak again.
How about the Game of Thrones board game? That's a pretty good board game. You guys
I really like that game. I haven't played it in such a long time, and I would love to get it out again.
It's such an investment.
Yeah, it is an investment.
You have
you really get that feel.
It's like diplomacy with mystical elements.
It is.
You have to play with 6. I mean, because
yes, totally.
Because if you don't play with all of the people, then you end up with like the just basically neutral spots that people can move in and take out, and then it's just too easy for them to kind of just. So some people have access to stuff that they shouldn't, to make it not fair.
True.
But I mean, it's just, and especially if you play a game with people that are into the show or into the books, and so then they can quote the movies and quote the shows and stuff like that, and then just like whenever anybody it's you have to, if you're the Lannister, you have to, if somebody betrays you, it's like a Lannister always pays his debts, just like you have to make your little comments and but yeah, that's such a good game for.
It's a brilliant game.
Oh, it's and it's just like you get so the reveal. I love board games with a reveal moment, where like because it's a tension anxiety thing where it's like, even if it's a game where everybody picks a card and puts down, you all flip it over at the same time and you see, it's just that reveal moment is amazing because you have no idea what's going to happen between now and so, like in that game where everybody's putting their orders down in different spots, and you're like you've had for like the last 5 turns. you and the Baratheons, you've had it very good, and it's just like, which one's gonna? Eventually, somebody has to betray somebody else, but
Yeah. It's
but
when
who's?
somebody plays that marching order right next to you, and
Oh,
you just stand there and you look at it and you go, "Where the hell are you going?"
and then that's when they're like, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. No, I'm worried.
Yeah, I've heard that before, and it never ends well.
There was a guy, he doesn't do the videos anymore, but he used to do these videos of like so and so board game in 10 seconds was all what the board game was called, the video was called, and they were just these like they had a little intro that lasted about almost 2 seconds, and then there was a 10-second video.
Right.
So they lasted 12 seconds, and it was just, and so a Game of Thrones board game in 10 seconds. And so it started off, it just showed the picture of the thing, and you hear do, 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 and that's the first like 2 seconds. And then you just see these two guys, and they're just staring at the table. They're both of them, they're on one side of the table, and they're both staring at the Game of Thrones board game table. And I'm acting this out in front of me. You can't see me, which is dumb. Why am I doing that? But and they're sitting there. And then for 8 seconds, they're just motionless, and they're staring at the table. And then in the last second, one guy raises his hand. He's got a dagger in his back, and he's getting ready to just slam it in the guy. He's getting stabbed in the back. And
that does sum that game up.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think it's our playstyle as well, because every time we play a competitive strategy game, for at least half, if not most of the game, we're just building up and being very nice to each other. And then we realize that we only have maybe 2 turns left, and the shit hits the fan, and everybody just attacks each other.
But isn't that a beautiful moment? I mean, in any game, it's just like there's that, because a board game that kind of tells a story as you play is so much better than just a cube pushing soulless strategy where it's just like, oh hey, good job, you got another 7 points for turning in that blue cube. Yeah.
No, I would agree with it for certain games like Battlestar Galactica. For me, is one that always tells a story when you play it.
Well, here I'm gonna say 2 anecdotes here. One, and there's always somebody who says, oh no, I totally remember that, but whenever somebody tells a board game story, it's always like, do you remember that time when we were playing Arkham Horror and like Cthulhu and the monsters were tearing apart the world, and it came down to that last gate, and if we didn't close it, there was no chance, and you had 1 die left, and you needed to get a 6 because you were cursed, and the ball, and you hit a 6 perfectly, and we won on that last die roll. Everybody's got a story like that, they tell that story. You never hear a story about, remember that time when we were playing Agricola and I got that last piece of reed before you, and I scored 3 points in the second to last turn and I won by 2. Remember that moment?
I suppose games about industry and making money are less heroic.
Yeah. We have kind of developed our own in-jokes about some of them.
Euan likes those games with worker placement because they're just more, grim and hopeless, and he doesn't like heroism. He just likes to do his bidding.
I don't do board games for escapism.
Yeah.
Then you'd really like Yokohama, honestly, because
let's talk about that.
It's a
great
game. But anyway, Battlestar Galactica. That is a game I probably played more than anything, and I've never seen a single episode of the show, and it is one of my absolute favorite board games.
Oh.
But what?
I've watched the old school show back when I was a kid, but I've never seen a single minute of the new show, and everybody's told me it's amazing.
All right, so have you if you ever watch it, just stop after the second season.
I just never bothered. I mean, I've heard enough stories about it, about the characters and what they do and what they did, that I know them. Yeah. So, but I mean, that game is great. There's something so wonderful about hiding as the traitor.
Yeah. Have you watched Heroes?
Yes, like the first 2 seasons were good, and then it was.
You're familiar with the way Heroes, as in terms of quality and storytelling, developed over the course of the whole show.
Well, it's like they didn't know what they wanted to do at all.
It's quite similar. You get a very well told story for about 2 seasons, and then it just transforms into something completely different and betrays you, and you're happy that it's gone.
So like the show Lost, like the first
it becomes very strange and esoteric in the last season, particularly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hadn't seen any of it when I played the board game for the first time.
Well, okay, so
I
I've
love
seen
it.
it
It was
all.
playing the
Why
board
have I
game.
not played the board game yet?
You haven't played it?
No!
Oh shit!
Exactly.
Right, okay, we need to fix that.
Thank you.
But yeah, it was playing the board game that made you watch the show.
Yeah, it was actually. It came. I went a bit sort of back to front because I got to play President Baby Eater, and I got to find out what his real deal is.
Oh, him. Okay.
That's the guy that can turn people into fuel, isn't it?
Well, yeah, his like every character in it has like some special power that they can. I think basically can only really use once, but it can quite like heavily affect the game. So like, there's one guy who's like, yeah, I think like Gaius Baltar's special ability is called Cowardice.
Yeah.
And like but yeah, I think I can't remember what my character's name, what his.
I can't remember his name.
What his thing was called. I think it was like sort of like it was kind of something to do with whether you're any means necessary sort of thing, and it was like you could I can't even remember which thing you could lower population by 1 to raise any other resource.
Yeah.
So essentially we characterised it as, and I very early on in the game like voted myself president as well. It's stupid stuff you can do.
Oh,
so yeah, so you were basically eating babies.
Yeah, I was
weren't
President Baby Eater.
you? Yeah. President Baby Eater.
Nice.
Stuff.
Right,
Okay,
so
lads.
Yokohama then.
Yeah, do you want to talk about Yokohama and then we can wrap the show up?
So Yokohama, it's from Hisashi Hayashi. His most famous design is probably Trains, which is the deck building train route game. But Yokohama is a worker placement game. But when you're placing your workers out, you don't activate them until your president basically comes like kind of a Pac-Man and lands on them and then collects all the workers on a location. And you can build up locations by putting multiple workers there over a course of several turns. And the reason you do that is because you get a greater return for the amount of workers that you have on a spot. So if you were on like a copper mine and you had like 3 workers on there, you'd get 2 2 copper bars for doing so. But if you had spent the time to like get like a few more workers on there, you could get more iron bars. You get like 3 iron bars or 4 iron bars or copper bars. I apologize. And so it's one of those things where it's like, you will since you have to place your workers. Normally if you place 3 workers down, you have to place them in 3 separate locations. Not only do you have to worry about the pathing, because your president has to follow a path of workers. Basically, I don't know, he's like so out of it that he needs like little helpers to tell him which way to go or what have you, but he has to follow the path that you've made on the board. But you will use other locations at lower levels as you, over the course of turns, keep adding more and more workers to other spots until they're primed and ready, basically, for your president to go to that spot, then activate them. So you can get, say, like the 5 fish that you need to satisfy a large order that will get you 10 victory points or whatever. And that's what I like about it, is that there's a build up and then payoff kind of thing to it, instead of just I'm going to go here and get 3 victory points. I'm going to go here and get 2 victory points. It's like it makes you have long-term strategies, which I think now in a game of this length, where it lasts about an hour and a half with 4 players, is really rare. It seems like we're in that weird world. Everybody wants that 1 hour long worker placement game that just has enough depth to like kind of make your brain go fuzzy. Just it actually feels more in the medium and maybe dipping its toes just a little bit into the heavy area, and I think it's going to satisfy a niche that really hasn't had anything out there.
Oh, it sounds really neat.
Don't tell me.
Here's a question: why this particular era and this particular country? Is there something in the gameplay that actually makes you feel that this is the Restoration Meiji era in Japan?
Well, I mean, it's set in the this area. I'm not a huge historian buff in the area, but I mean, I understand it is like during like the beginning of the era where like outside investors kind of like saw Japan as a place where they could get cheap goods, like cheap fish and what have you. And so it feels kind of like like you're in that weird spot where like the industrialization of their economy
just starting,
just starting. And so it's kind of a neat moment where like there isn't really any like large power plants or anything going on. It's still
very rapid, so I suppose it can translate into. Oh, did I just?
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Oh, sorry. I thought we lost you again. What
No.
I mean is, yeah, because the industrialization was so rapid, it might actually translate thematically into players actually building these companies and aggressively pursuing various whatever market areas.
Yeah,
yeah.
One of the other things is like you actually you get technologies, so and technologies actually come from outside foreign areas, so they're bringing like the telephone or street lights or things like that you can then adopt, and they give you bonuses or whatever, and also like the more relationships that you have with outside foreign interests. Actually, you collect cards that have and the cards are both orders and also technologies, but they have a flag on them, and that represents what country they're from or what have you. And then those actually add, if you have a wide diversity of those, you'll get extra bonus points at the end of the game and things like that. So it does actually kind of evoke the theme a little bit. Now at its core, it's still a strategy game. So yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to play it and say, I really feel like a budding merchant, a president of a merchant company in Japan. I don't think they're going to feel like that. But it does make sure that we're making sure that the game actually has the graphic design and everything that is from that period. And we're making sure that it doesn't feel dry and soulless, if you will.
Very nice.
Excellent.
When are you guys planning to have it available?
Well, it's in Kickstarter right now. We got a couple weeks left. I don't know when this is going live, but then as soon as we're done, then you collect the money and you start production. I mean, we're going full bore deluxe version on it with everything is, instead of cardboard, it's pretty much everything is wood. They're gonna we're gonna have little mini meeples instead of cubes for the workers. We're going to have metal coins in there. We're gonna have a deluxe box. It's gonna be giant. There's almost 200 resources, and those are all gonna be wooden resources. Like the fish are gonna look like fish. The tea leaves are gonna look like tea. So it's this box is going to be huge. I mean, we don't know exactly, but it's going to weigh a ton with all the
I had a quick look at the Kickstarter page when we were having technical issues, and it seems like the Kickstarter is really doing well. You guys have hit a lot of stretch goals, and all those tokens are becoming beauties.
Let's have a look at this.
Yeah, and I'm quite interested in that particular historic period in that particular area of the world. So I'll probably end up joining you because I think there's still 10 days left on that Kickstarter.
Yes. So yes, go ahead. Pay my salary. Go down.
You got it.
Thank you very much. No. So yeah, I mean and obviously we got other games coming out too. Guilds of London was one that was made by Anthony Bodell, and that one went over really well at the UK Game Expo. He sold out of all his copies there. We sold out of all of our copies at Origins, and then it releases beginning of August, and that's one we're really excited about as well. And I'm sure you may know about that. I mean,
I've heard of it. Yeah,
he's from, and it's also Guilds of London. I think that's somewhere around there where you live.
Yeah, it's in some country south of us.
It's a different country, but we've heard of it. Yes.
Yes. So I mean, there's that, and and also at Gen Con we're hoping we'll have Thieves Market, which is our roll dice and divide the loot game that people enjoy a great deal, and also possibly Ponzi Scheme will release at Gen Con, hopefully, if we can get it back from China in time. Excellent. Which is of course the like a true Ponzi scheme. Everybody you try to get everybody to invest in you, and you hope not to go bankrupt. And so but then as soon as one person goes bankrupt, the game ends, and whoever's got the most money that they've lied and cheated to get wins the game. If you know a Ponzi scheme, I've played it. It feels like it's a Ponzi scheme.
It's just like real life, really.
Most business is based on that model these days.
Just as long as you can get more investors before your earlier investors want their payout, you're fine, right? You just got to keep the money kiting along, and then So
skimming off a bit for yourself.
there you go. That's the American dream, right?
That's it.
Super.
Right, excellent. Well, I think we're going to have to call the show there.
So,
No, I should say this was highly enjoyable. Thank you.
Yeah. We've
thanks
had
for
a lot of
coming
fun, Lance. So we've enjoyed a lot of those chats. They've
this-
gone off in weird directions,
Yeah.
and I've loved every minute of it.
That's what we're here for. Yes.
The only thing I'm surprised is that we never ended up talking about professional wrestling. It seems like every single time on a podcast, I always end up talking about professional.
We're not that
It's
interested.
not something we frequently bring up. I certainly.
We can
I
talk about
enjoy it
jiu-jitsu.
I enjoy it as a novelty. So
We
you
all
go.
like The Rock, but everybody likes The Rock.
I don't like The Rock,
Really?
but I like the bad guys. And The Rock.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's-
just being a good guy in wrestling is boring.
Yeah.
You
That's
gotta
John Cena's just the most boring wrestler.
He does those rap songs though.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, but all of them started off as bad guys, though. And that's the real thing, is that the bad guys, the good guys now, like almost all of them started off as heels, if you will, but they just get over with the crowd, because they're eventually so cool at being a bad guy that they get over. So, and that's fine. It's a natural evolution. Cena was a bad guy. Rock was a bad guy. Stone Cold was a bad guy. Even the Hulk was a bad guy at first. Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
So, it's a natural conversion, if you will.
Okay, so
There, we talked about it.
Some wrestling chat.
Yeah, we've got the
we
wrestling.
got
We've ticked all the boxes.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there any other boxes you want to tick while you're here, Lance?
Well, no, let me say again, thank you very much for having me on. And if you ever want me
It was
back,
a pleasure.
just let me know. And I'd be very much interested in coming back in the future.
Cool, excellent.
More
So
than
what
welcome
you've got a YouTube channel and everything. You want to give us the details of that?
Yeah, if you want to go to Undead Viking videos, if you just type in Undead Viking board game, you can find me. But Undead Viking videos on the YouTube channel. Don't bother going to the Tasty Minstrel Games. Well, you can if you want to go to the TMG website, though it's under construction right now. So it's the one that's there is a placeholder. So but it's coming soon. Hopefully, relatively soon, the one that I'm working on right now will.
Landing page fans.
I had a look. It works.
It works. There you go. That's
So
it. It does what it's supposed to do. So, but if anybody listens to this and they have any questions at all, they can shoot me an email at if it's a TMG related thing, they could shoot me at lance@playtmg.com, or they can shoot me anything you want to send me there. That works. It doesn't matter if it's about a video or whatever.
Cool.
I get them all. So
Excellent. We'll give out all our details.
Yeah, plug time.
So our email address is firstplayertoken@gmail.com if you want to contact us there. We are on Facebook, SoundCloud, iTunes. We have a YouTube channel. We are on Twitter, but that's at 1ST Player Token, as I always have to say.
That once player
Yeah,
token.
not first player token. 1ST. Somebody took first player token.
oh, you didn't get in soon enough.
Didn't get in soon enough, no.
I
But-
signed up for Twitter when it first started up, and I just as a lark and got Undead Viking.
well done.
Yep.
Well done.
There's a chap who is running for potential leadership of the United Kingdom called Michael Gove. If you look up a website that was registered last year, it's www.gove2016.co.uk. It's hilarious and also gives you an explanation of the incompetence of the man.
It is excellent. It's well worth looking at.
So now we've plugged politics in as well.
We should
there
also
go,
mention.
the last checkbox. We made it. We
Yes, we did it. Well done,
Finally.
boys. Well done.
Somehow we never talked about Brexit.
Yeah, we're done talking about
Oh,
that now.
That's the wound that's still bleeding.
Yeah.
It's too early.
Pavel's going to have to go home soon. So.
I know, we have to lock him up in the attic
Yeah.
before they get stabbed.
I have hiding places prepared everywhere.
That's excellent. All right,
Okay,
boys.
we should
Well,
also
hey-
mention
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
we're part of the Podnose network, which is www.podnose.com, which is obviously a network of podcasts, but not just gaming. It's about all sorts of topics. So have a look there. It's a pretty good website. There's a lot of good podcasts on there. And that's the show. That's episode 23. That's been great fun. I've loved that.
A lot of fun.
I had plenty of fun. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Lance,
yeah.
It was great hearing you. We're
Yes.
looking forward to having you again in the future.
Yeah.
Excellent. I look
We'll
forward to
step up in quality for
Yeah.
episode.
Oh, whatever. This is amazing. Thank you very much
Excellent.
for taking the time.
No problem. Okay, so that's the end of the show. I'm Chris.
I have been Euan.
I'm neither of those.
And we've also had Lance.
Yeah.
See you later.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So what makes an American accent American? Because like you never know. You don't know how you talk is it's normal. So
Yeah.
I always ask.
That's a really strange question.
Can I start? I want to start. I really want to
Okay,
start.
Red, please go
I'll
ahead.
start. Lance, I'm not from UK. I can say from an Eastern European's perspective, what makes an American accent is the fact that you guys are easily understandable as compared to Scots.